Alright, and hello everybody, I'm the Sweeper27, and welcome to another Dokkan battle video. We have another good discussion for you today. Now, we've talked about damage, we've talked about rainbowed units, we've talked about a lot of things, so I think it's about time that we talk about dodge. One of the most controversial things in this game's history. We have a lot of people who have very strong opinions about it. We have people who love dodge. We think it's the second coming of Jesus Christ. We have some people who think it's just an outright useless mechanic, worthless, might as well not even put it in the hidden potential system. We have people who say that dodging units are frauds, that dodging units are like the backbone of this game. We have a lot of different opinions, so we're going to kind of dive in. We're going to see why maybe different power levels of the game like different things, maybe where some of these opinions come from or whatever. So I feel like a lot of the time when people think of a dodging character, they're going to think of this clip. Now, this is one of my favorite JP Dokkan accounts. Yep. So a lot of time when people think about dodge, they think it's either that right there, or they think it is you get a hidden potential system dodge. Like right here, this is a situation where the only way that you win is a hidden potential system dodge. And then we have people who think that every time you have a dodge in your passive, it's this. And then you get this pop off. Truth, stop swearing at the start of my video. What?
I win. Hold that fucking dick.
Whoa! Truth.
Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. And then he posted this. So, why did my internet go out? Anyway, so obviously dodge. We saw right there, it can be two completely different things. You can win a fight off of it, or you can outright lose a fight off of it. Although sometimes dodge units, they become so infamous, right? For better or for worse, that there are times where people actually beg for their downfall. Now, I know this is going to be another truth clip, but there are people who, really hate, the AGL Vegito. There are people who all the time kind of ask for them to die, like in slot 1, just because they personally are not a fan of the character. Truth is obviously a fan of Broly, Chile, and Limo, but probably just wants better for them, and obviously saying all the time that he's getting, skill check comments for situations that, aren't his fault, because they need 7 orbs. Again, we'll talk about this all later. It can certainly lead to resentment when a mechanic, their defensive mechanic, can fail them.
They're dying! They're dying! Yes! Yes! Oh my fucking god, yes, dude! Fuck you, Swag Kage!
So, we have a couple of characters that we're going to go over today. I have 3 of, arguably the best dodging units, and then I just have 3 other dodging units that came out within recent history that are a little bit more contentious, or whatever. Or is that the word I'm thinking for? Contentious, pretentious? I don't know. So, AGL UI. What does AGL UI do? Well, let's go ahead and discuss it. So, his first turn, he gets guaranteed dodge. Not much else to say there. First turn, this kid's untouchable. Amazing. Then, outside of that, he has a 77% chance to dodge. So it's slightly higher than normal. Most of the time, you have a great chance to dodge, which is 70%. This is, the highest starter turn dodge I think any character has, if I'm not wrong. And he also has the potential to, on every turn, become untouchable, because each time he dodges, he gets an extra 7% dodge within the turn. So if you dodge once, you get an 84% chance to dodge. You dodge again, it's 91. Yet again, it's 98. After that, it is a 100% chance to dodge. Now, I didn't pull it up. I guess I could pull it up real quick, but I would have to go searching for it. But I did post a meme whenever it was, first discovered, because the community did not realize that this was a stack. We thought that this was a separate proc for the longest time. But when we found out it's stacked, I made a meme where it was something along the lines of watching my MUI Goku eat a super attack. He had a 98% chance to... Hold on, I'm going to see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, I found it. So this was in response to a Minato post, essentially saying that you dodge 3 times, you get 98% chance to dodge, and then after that it's guaranteed. And then I just posted the cat meme, me staring at MUI after he dodged 3 attacks and then eats a super attack and dies. He had a 98% chance to dodge. I just thought it was funny because I guess that can technically happen. And again, that's going to be the biggest discussion that we're going to get to throughout the rest of this video. But so this is a unit who has a guaranteed dodge turn right here. On any given turn can essentially have another guaranteed dodge turn. And then where is it right here? Yeah. So when his specific revival skill is activated, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's specifically his within the next turn after the character's revive. Yeah, I think this only procs if it's his revive. I could be wrong, but I think it is worded in such a way that only if MUI's dodge, or excuse me, if his revive is activated, he gets yet another guaranteed dodge turn. So why do people love UI so much? Obviously, it's because he has one of the best defensive mechanics in the game. He's one of the most consistent. He has very high stats at the start of turn, and he is also doing a lot of damage. This is one of these very good balanced characters where, like, he's not, like, the most explosive offensively, but, like, his utility, obviously, he has a revive, which is super huge. He has an active skill, which can do some pretty decent damage as well. He's on a lot of good teams, a lot of good links. Overall, just very well-rounded, but he has just these stupid little mechanics that... This is a character who I actually think will probably never age out. I actually think they made him potentially too good. So, because he... Like, even when his damage isn't going to be good enough, are we going to have characters who are just having a higher chance than 77% chance to dodge? And he has multiple guaranteed dodge turns, and on any given turn, he can be untouchable. I don't know. I feel like this is one of these characters they maybe over-tuned a little bit. But we can see, again, he has a lot of stuff cooking in here. Now, he can obviously take some damage against normals, because he's really not rocking any sort of defensive mechanic outside of the dodge, which is something that we have to keep in mind. All right. Now we're going to discuss this fella right here, the most recent dodging unit to be released in the game. Yet another MUI Goku, funnily enough. So if we're looking at what this guy does, he has a little bit more difference to him. So obviously, once you transform, he also has a guaranteed dodge turn. Very, very good. Very, very good. He also gets crits off of his... where's it at? Where's it at? Hello? Wait. Where's his crits? Or his counters. What am I looking for? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Every time he dodges, he also gets to counter. So not only is your dodge saving you damage, you're actually dealing damage to the enemy. This is a super attractive mechanic to have. I really, really like the gimmick of this. Even though in certain fights it can't do the most amount of damage, I do like this. I do really like the idea of giving such a defensive ability, such an offensive, like, counterpart to it as well. Very, very good. And then we have right here, Blue Gogeta. Now, Blue Gogeta, he's just a 70% chance to dodge character. He has no guaranteed dodge unless you're using his active skill, which is also really stupid. It is a huge attack that makes all the enemy attacks target him, and then he gets guaranteed dodge for the turn, which is huge. Huge team protection ability. So we can see why just for these guys' dodge abilities alone, that they are preferred. I'm literally just talking about what they're able to do with their dodge. So obviously this guy has like the revive and his guaranteed dodge turns. This guy has a lot of dodge as well. Are you a 77% chance to dodge, or are you just 70? Each time you perform an attack. Okay, so he works his way up to 77, but 77 is his ceiling. So this kid's ceiling is this kid's base. Okay, good to know, good to know. And then this character, obviously, he has just 70% chance to dodge throughout his passive here, but that can become guaranteed and protect the rest of the team with the active skill. So, again, 3 dodging units that the community loves. Let's go into some ones that are a little bit more contentious. We're going to start off with these guys first. Now, these characters are all 50% chance to dodge characters, or this is a 50% chance to dodge character, so I can understand why right out the gate you might not think this is a fair comparison, because we're comparing 70+ dodge characters to essentially 50+ characters, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that just a little bit, because there's a bit more to this conversation than outside of just the dodge. So as we can see right here, they get an additional 150% defense and a 50% chance to dodge when they are the first attacker in the turn. So primarily, this is their main defensive mechanic. Now, for the first couple of turns, they do also get an extra 100% defense, and they get guard and any slot or whatever. But most of the time when you're using this character, they are going in slot 1. Because having that extra dodge on top of everything else... Now, granted, when you put them in slot 1, they are kind of fish. They don't, like, do damage or anything. But having guard and a 50% chance to dodge is pretty good. But they do take a lot of damage nonetheless. All right, now moving on. This is potentially my bias showing here. This character, I have never been sold... And I mean never been sold more by a dodging unit ever in my Dokkan career than I have by this character. So if we look at what they're able to do right here. Now this is, dodge is his only mechanic. He has a 50% chance to dodge all supers. And then after he dodges once, he gets an extra 10% to dodge throughout the rest of the turn in his base form. Once you transform, I think it is the exact same. He has a high chance to dodge, but then it goes up to a 20% chance to dodge after he dodges an attack. And then if you're able to go into the SSJ3 transformation, he just has a baseline 70% that still, after you do one dodge, is a 90%. So with one dodge, this kid is essentially untouchable. which sounds pretty good. Again, baseline, baseline. And then Broly, Chinline, and Limbo. These are a character who, even before their EZA, there were people who saying that this was one of the best characters in the game because they have the unrestricted ability, or like the untapped potential, I guess I would say, and not unrestricted ability, is that they can get guaranteed dodge with 7 orbs. Where is it at in their passive? Oh, brother, having to find all these is... Here it is. Here it is. You give them 7 orbs, they guarantee dodge. Now, why are some of these characters viewed differently than these characters? Again, this is a guaranteed dodge unit, and this can be a guaranteed dodge unit. So where's the disconnect? Okay. So, I know, like I said, these characters just have starter dodge at the start of turn. I did mention that, but the real difference that I want to bring up is that dodge is a mechanic. As defensive as it is, as good as it is fundamentally designed very differently than like guard or damage reduction a lot of the time. We can look at a character even like this. This is a character who has dodge as the primary mechanic, then also has guard after they receive an attack, and then they have damage reduction for their first attack, the first time that they would get hit in a turn. Most of the time, if you have a dodging unit, if they do not dodge, you are dead, okay? Broly, Chinlay, and Lemma, we can pull up this clip again right here, because this is not the most damage-dealing boss in the game, alright? This is the Supreme Magnificent Spectacle. This is the second stage, okay? This is stage 2. That's stage 2 post-super attack, by the way. I know you can say type disadvantage or whatever, but that's 2 million? Let's go ahead and actually pull up what the damage is here. Let's see, what sort of damage are we rocking with? Now, again, you can also say that's class disadvantage, that's type disadvantage, or whatever, which, I mean, it is true, to be fair. That is something that has to, like, be taken into the equation, I suppose. That's a 1.3. That Fusion Zamasu hit harder for that last year, you know? And again, I know you could throw in all those extra features or whatever, but I feel like that right there shows why people have a bad taste in the mouth when it comes to dodge. So, there are so many situations where if a dodging character does not dodge, you are dead. And that does not feel very good, okay? There are times where, like, you don't get a crit, and, like, that's whatever. You still have plenty of other opportunities to crit. You don't die because you don't get a crit, okay? There are very few instances where you are dying because you don't get a crit. There are times where you die because you don't get a, an additional or a hidden potential system additional, because obviously those do add buffs to your passive, to your character for the turn, or multiple turns in some instances, if you give them a lot of hidden potential system dodge, or if they have a lot of dodge, or excuse me, they have a lot of hidden potential system additional, or they right here has a high chance of launching an additional super. If these don't proc, that can lead to your death because you're missing out on defense here. That is more common, but I feel like probably the most common way a lot of units will die, specifically dodge units, will be because their main and only defensive mechanic doesn't activate. You don't get it. So if you don't get this character 7 orbs for whatever reason, just because you got unlucky or you had to prioritize other characters, they have 50% chance to dodge, which is good. But that is a coin flip every single attack, whether or not this character is going to live or die. Like, that's how you have to think about it. It's not, whatever it is, 50% of the time, this character will get you killed if you cannot give them 7 orbs. There is no and, ifs, or buts about it. Just because, I mean, we saw right there, we got to super attack first. Like, they had big bad bosses activated with the Cell Max, which is, like, the biggest defensive link in the game, essentially, or one of the better links in the game, and they got caught. This is a unit who a lot of people despise, but I think it's for actually the opposite reason. This is a 50% chance to dodge character, but they have guard. So, I feel like the problem people have with this character is that they're not dodging, but they're also not dying. So they're being stuck in a fight for longer. I feel like that is actually where a lot of people despise this character. Is because they are just defensive enough to tank normals and some supers and not die, even though they are failing the 50% all the time. Now again, this is right here. This is one of my least favorite units ever. I understand what they're doing is good, but I genuinely have never had a dodge unit fraud me more than this guy. And I don't like running him. I do not like running him. I will choose other dodge characters. I understand that he is technically, objectively better than Kefla because he has this mechanic. And he just outright has a higher chance to dodge, even though he does less damage. I run Kefla over this kid all the time when she has to get 6 orbs. She has to get 6 orbs. I don't know what it is. He has a lot of dodge in his hidden potential system. This kid frauds me. And I understand it's just ones and zeros. There could be a run where this kid could dodge 1,000 super attacks in a row. 1,000 in a row. And that's good. That's good. Just because he has, he has a 50-50 and then a slightly above a 50-50. And that's just what it is. But I have a bad taste in my mouth because specifically my, experience with this character is dying over and over and over again. And it's not just his base form, it's his Super Saiyan form, and even sometimes his SSJ3 form has frauded me. Who has a 90% chance to dodge? Frauds me out. So why are these characters seen a little bit more frowned upon than these guys over here? I would argue that these guys have more than just dodge as a defensive mechanic. I'm not really counting this because, again, they do still get clapped up even with their guard. I'm not a huge fan of just guard without damage reduction. But if we're looking here, what are they doing outside of dodging? Nothing. So you either give them 7 orbs or they're dead. What is this kid doing outside of just dodging? Mediocre damage by today's standards? I mean, it's fine, I guess. It's fine. But it's nothing really spectacular. They have, when you're using this character, you're hoping the first attack, they get this, that way you feel safe. If they don't dodge that first attack, you're feeling dangerous until they do, because this is a character who can get clapped up, because, again, all they are doing is dodging. They don't have damage reduction anywhere built into their passive. Now, this is a character who can also get clapped up again. This is a brand new unit. I don't have any footage up here. But this is a unit who can take a lot of damage if you're not dodging, but they have a workaround. So they have 20% damage reduction all the time, 60% until they get hit. So, yeah, the first attack they're going to take in a turn, they're not going to take a lot of damage. Now, after that, they lose that, but then they get guard. So this, I feel like, is so that you can live a super. This is so that you can live normals. But that's not going to happen very often because you have a 77% chance to dodge. But the 23% of the time that this frauds you, that he does not choose to dodge, you have workarounds. And you have good workarounds. Again, I think you can live supers with this. I think you should be able to tank any normal in the game with this. I may be wrong. I've been wrong before. Let me know if I am. But that is just, the thought process that I'm feeling. Is that is kind of what they were going for. Or at the very least, if you can't take a super with this, and you can only take normals, you're taking 0 from that first normal. And you're going to hope for the rest of the turn you only get hit once. Because it is not very common you're going to get caught multiple times in a row. Again, 23% of the time you're going to get hit. 23. And then we go to a character like this guy. His defensive mechanic is stupid because he has guaranteed dodge. Guaranteed. No condition. If he is the character who revives himself, boom, guaranteed dodge. And then any given turn, he has no orb restrictions. He has nothing. He just has to do what he does best, which is dodge. Now again, he can get caught, but if he does get caught, he has this. He has a revive. So even if he does take a lot of damage, whatever reason, this kid gets hit multiple times. That's like the night and day difference between these characters. Because yes, they both have the potential to be guaranteed dodge. But one is way easier to achieve. And one has an actual backup mechanic if you were to get caught. So I feel like that's why maybe sometimes people are not the hugest fan of dodging characters specifically. But why is dodge so, who is stroking off dodge and why? So, bosses are just insane. I know our characters are very, 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 very good. And I know it is super rewarding when you do get, a hidden potential system dodge. We can scroll down here. We can see if we can refine this clip. But it is super rewarding where you do actually win a fight because of dodge. I would argue most of the time, out of the 3 hidden potential system, things that you're able to activate, most of the time you will win because of a dodge. Very rarely will you win because of a crit. And I would say 50% of the time, 59% of the time, you'll win due to a hidden potential system additional super. Because if you do get the super, again, you're not only getting whatever effect they get, but you're also just naturally doing more damage as well. This felt good. Watching this, he was dead here, but he got the dodges, and because of that, he was able to win. That feels clutch. And even though we have super, 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 very powerful defensive characters, bosses, some of them are just stronger than us to this day. This is the most notable one that I can think of, is just because this is a bullshit fight. Not necessarily a hard fight, but this is a bullshit fight. So obviously dodge would be really good in here, except this fight actually nullifies it for an entire stage. So it is super tricky, and this is, again, we're going to talk about this a little bit later for why some people don't like dodge. But let's look at Cellmax. All right, Cellmax turn 1, 300 million HP. That's the most HP of any boss. His normals are 1 million. Not a lot of characters are going to be able to live this turn 1. Not a lot of characters are going to be able to live this turn 1. So, if you were able to dodge, you have MUI guaranteed dodge turn 1 plus having type advantage against Cellmax, dude, you're going to put a dent in this kid's forehead. Right there, boom. It like you're bunk, you know, get a crowbar out. You're gonna put some serious hurting on this guy, which is like super good. And that again, that's something that shouldn't be underestimated because again, even with how powerful our boxes are, not a lot. Like, let's see how many characters like reliably turn 1 do I think could go. You, maybe you. I actually don't think these guys would be able to. Well, maybe you have type disadvantage. You could because of dodge. Obviously, you could. Like, you're getting clapped up there. I think you're probably getting clapped up there. Dude, Tech Ultimate Gohan takes damage turn 1. I think Exchange Boo takes damage turn 1. And these are new releases. Topo probably takes damage. Not like a lot, but like some damage. They can't stand a chance in here. They don't stand a chance in here. I mean, obviously, Beast is really good. Gogeta, I don't think stands a chance in here. Those are a bunch of brand new units. Like, relevant units. And in this fight are deemed essentially worthless because their turn 1 performance isn't good enough. But, you put some dodge on there, you get lucky when you need to, and then all of a sudden you stay to, like, you're in it to survive another turn. I feel like dodge, and like this is ultimately what my argument is going to come down to, dodge is either the most rewarding or the most devastating thing in this game. Because when you're begging for a head of potential system dodge and you get it and you get to win, nothing feels better, dude. When you win because of that, like when you think you stand no chance, but you actually do, that feels amazing. Then, like if you have a friend unit, like let's go over here. Let's look at this for example. All right. Let's say you have a friend unit who gets locked into slot 1, who has 0 dodge. Let's say it's a Topo for whatever reason, 0 dodge in the hidden potential system, gets locked into slot 1. You don't have the active skill up because you're running it on Universe 11, or you're just running whatever. For whatever reason, you don't have the intro up. 0 dodge, and you die. That doesn't feel good. Now, imagine the same friend Topo has a 23% chance to dodge. You get locked into slot 1. You have a 23% chance to survive as opposed to a 0. And it feels good when that does happen. It does, like, genuinely, when it's like these bosses who have so many powers, they do so much damage. There's not a lot of things that we as players can do. When you do get that, like, I mean, it's not 1 in a million, it's 23 out of 100, but you get the idea. When the stars align and you're able to get a winning run, or you're able to live to the next turn because of a dodge, that does feel good. It does. It really, really does. But, on the same hand, it does not feel good to beg for a hidden potential system dodge to not get it. It does not feel good for a dodging unit to die. Those feel bad. When you have a damage reduction character, I feel like it doesn't necessarily even feel bad. Like, if you have a damage reduction character who has 60% damage reduction, and they get clapped, you just go, oh, okay, this character's not good for this fight. You know what I mean? You're like, their level of defense just isn't good enough. That says nothing about RNG. RNG isn't a factor in that. That is definitive. This character's kit is not good enough for here because they just have 60% damage reduction. And that's fine. That's fine. But you could use this exact character 100 different times and get 100 different results. Because ultimately, 23% of the time, you're going to lose because of this character. 30% of the time, this character will get you caught. That's just how it is. Now, and that is where I feel like there's also a huge disconnect, okay? So, if, again, like Majin Vegeta, let's talk about Int Majin Vegeta. In Majin Vegeta, he's a character who can get up to like 50% damage reduction. He gets 20% if you run him with the Trunks. He gets 30% damage reduction if you give him 6 orbs or whatever. 50% damage reduction. Is anyone using Majin Vegeta in today's meta? No. His level of defense just simply is not good enough. He aged out, which is fine. You could try running him. I don't know if you would have any level of success. I really doubt it. I really, really doubt it. But, like, is anyone really going to die that? Do I have a single Majin Vegeta fanboy in the chat that's going to be like, no, he's actually really good? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But, we have characters like this who have staunch defenders who say that this kid is not bad. Now, again, I'm not really going to defend the base form. But they have people who say, like, dude, the base form's really not even that bad. You just give them a little bit of dodge here. They dodge everything. They can tank normals well enough. And then you get a huge payoff once you're able to transform. We have people, like, again, we have people who say this. And why is that? Why is that? Because every single run with this character, it is going to be fundamentally different because of this. Because of this. For some people, this character, there is someone out there in the world, like, genuinely think about this. There is someone out there in the world right now who has this unit at 55%, and it has never received a hit. Because they just have the most godlike RNG ever. There is someone out there, I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are. There's some player who, because RNG has had their back so hard since day one, this is a character, like, never taken a hit. Because every single time they get a coin flip, I know that seems incredibly impossible, but, like, rarer things have happened. You know what I mean? It's a game of ones and zeros. The game decides what it wants to do, which is frustrating. Because you could have, again, this guy, 98% chance to dodge. He can get caught. And then you can have this guy, again, 55%, literally no dodge in the hidden potential system. He just cruises with this. He's never even got to use his guard. Because this game is random. It's RNG. It's numbers. And it's frustrating when a game that wants to be a game of skill implements RNG implements. Like RNG, like we know fundamentally, like this is a fact. We know how much HP this guy has. We know how much his normals do. We know how much damage reduction he has. We can figure out how much his super attacks do. We know all this. That is like our knowledge. But then it comes to RNG of where is the super attack? How many attacks is he doing in slot 1? Oh, he's bullying slot 3? We're dead. Nothing we can do. Oops, that sucks. There are so many different parts of this game where it's like, there are RNG elements, and that's where, like, most of the unfairness factor in this game comes from there. Because people all the time, like, again, I love truth. I'm not going to just outright sit here and say that every single decision he's ever made has been correct, alright? But there are people who are, like, who will genuinely watch his videos where he'll have to put a unit in slot 1, and then a slot 3 unit will die, and they'll be like, bro, skill issue. What? Huh? There was one attack in slot 3. And obviously you have to, like, give yourself the best chance of living. You know what I mean? There are a lot of instances like that where there's nothing you can do. You can have an S tier Vegito scouter up. You can see that there's a super in slot 1, a super in slot 2 or 3, and you have no unit who can tank it without performing a super, and you're dead. That stuff like that happens, and, like, that's okay. It is okay, but when when you lose because of something that is outside of your ability or outside of your box's power, that does feel frustrating. Again, this guy, 2% of the time dies, dude, that's gonna suck. But just because your damage reduction character or your guard character just naturally gets power crept, I don't think, like, sometimes you just have to let go of characters, and that's okay. Just because this is a game that naturally pushes on, but dodge characters, and let alone, like, the hidden potential system dodge ability, like, it kind of makes characters linger on a little bit longer than they probably should. Like, this is a character who I honest to God, I don't think will ever be power crept. Just because they are actually too good. Bare minimum, 77% chance to dodge, multiple guaranteed dodge turns, has a revive. Like, what? What were they cooking? Like, oh, well, you can nullify dodge because dodge is the most powerful thing in the game. Because if you're dodging attacks, you can't get debuffed. Hold on, let's show up examples. If you're dodging, you can't be debuffed. And you can't be stunned or sealed, which is true. Which is another thing why dodge is so powerful. And it's so powerful, in fact, that in the hidden potential system, every 1 point of dodge just gives you 1 point of dodge. You give someone 1 additional, they have a 2% chance to additional. You give someone 5% chance to dodge, they only have 5% chance to dodge. Because it is genuinely that powerful, and I feel like a lot of the time you can balance off a character. Like, Broly is a character who is, like, so offensive, LR Broly. You could give him dodge because his passive is going to carry him enough offensively. You can do that extra dodge in there so that defensively, just in case he were ever to tank a super or whatever, there's a chance you can live and stuff like that. Or you could have make dodge characters even better. Like, yeah, this character can potentially fraud you 23% of the time. You give them 33% dodge in the hidden potential system, you have 77-33, and then you have to fail both of those to get caught. Like, what are the chances of that happening? Very, very rare. I mean, it can happen. There is someone whose UI Goku has never dodged. Think about that outside of this. There is someone whose UI has never dodged because the game just says, hey, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck you, dude. We gambling today and you lost. And you're going to lose tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. which doesn't feel good. I do understand that. Again, but when your characters are dodging everything, dodging left and right, dude, when I'm busting out Chilai, when I bring Chilai up against Supreme Magnificent Battle Gogeta, and she gets the final blow, bro, I am going to scream until I lose my voice. I'm then going to find my voice and lose it again, because that is a moment that I want and need to happen. Because she's a unit who literally, outside of having her dodge, does nothing. I mean, yeah, she has a scouter, yeah, she orb changes, but she's offering 0 offensive presence to the team. But she will also be a unit who is good forever, just because 30% of the time she'll die, the other 70 she'll live. And it's genuinely that simple. And that's annoying. When you have these units who, you have to have, like, these elaborate mind games of, like, you have to know, like, when is the best time to stack, when is the best time to transform. Vegeta is the unit that is immediately coming to my mind. Like, this guy has one of the highest potentials of any unit in the game, depending on how many stacks you're able to get in his base form. This guy could literally be, like, one of the better units in the entire game, but that's under ideal circumstances. You're more likely than not, you're going to have to transform into this guy pretty much as soon as you can. Or, again, you can play risky. You can, like, use some of the mind games. There's not a lot of attacks in slot 2. I don't really need him for slot 1 purposes. I can put him here. We can greed out some extra stacks. That way his transformation will be that much more powerful. And then once his transformation is that more powerful, I mean, the Big Bang is going to do more damage. And he'll be tanking better. So, like, he might eat something for 500k, like a super for 500k. He'll eat it for 420k, meaning that this character will activate their part of their ability. And it's all these mind games. It's, you really have to think. You don't think with UI. You put him wherever, and he does the same thing. And I feel like that's a pretty big disconnect. Like, that's a, like, fundamentally, these two play extremely differently. And there are multiple examples I can think of it. Tech Ultimate Gohan. Knowing when to transform with Tech Ultimate Gohan is genuinely what can make or break, like, some of the better players in this game. Because, yeah, obviously he has 30% damage reduction for his first turn. He's greatly stacking. But when do you stop greatly stacking and when do you stop lowering attack to get business? Because, like, obviously he guards here. But, like, there are times where, like, this guy is needed to be able to tank some attacks. So you're getting an extra 100 here. But you're losing out on the ability to stack. You're losing on the debuff to get a stun instead. You're missing out on all these different, like, little nuances that this guy has, which make him very nice to have, very consistent. It's very, again, there are a lot of mind games, and then, like, this isn't a mind game character. You put him in slot 1. You put him where the most amount of attacks are. You float this character, you get rainbow orbs. You put this guy anywhere, and he's going to look the exact same. Whereas this guy, like, it's a risk putting him in front of attacks, because he's only 50% of the time he's going to live, and then the other time he's dead. These guys, I mean, yeah, they'll take a lot of damage, but you have to put them in slot 1, and you gotta hope and pray that not only will they dodge, but on turn 5 or whatever, you're gonna be under 70% HP. And then we have a character like this who, unless you give them 70% chance, or 7 orbs, 50% of the time they're dead. There are a lot of, like, different, like, things where, like, out of your control that are frustrating, and so frustrating. Like, you get this guy 6 orbs, he could dodge 3 attacks, really cool, and then he could eat a super and die. Fundamentally, just very, very different how they play, how they work. But the thing is, they're always going to be good. And that's what's probably frustrating to a lot of people. Like, personally, I don't give a fuck. You look at so many of my kits, so many of my characters. I give dodge builds to a lot of characters. Now, I have stated before the reason I do that is because they're not rainbowed. So I think giving my units a chance to live as opposed to, like, you know, just maximizing their stats so that a 79% unit can look like he's rainbowed. I don't really care about all that. Like, because you're missing out on the HP and everything. That's not necessarily my preferred way to play. I like having a lot of balanced characters or whatever. But, I understand that there are a lot of units who struggle to survive this on turn 2. There are units who can't survive this guy once he gets fully built up. But you know what can happen? If you dodge. And dodging can be so good that we have bosses that get rid of it. So what do you do in a fight like this where essentially a third of the defensive mechanics are just outright taken out? Now, obviously, you have, like, Tech UI. You can rush this guy. You can do all these different things. So you can't really rush him because you're one-turning this guy. You're, like, 1 to 2 phasing this guy. And then you're stuck here. You bring too many dodge units, you're dead. Like, even if you have Tech UI, you have to maneuver Tech UI to be able to transform within the right amount of time. And even still, you only have his dodge, nullifying, cancellation for 3 turns. So, it's not even like the ability is like a guaranteed save all if you're not then also doing enough damage. And then there's just so many things you really have to like think about. So many like different hoops for this fight specifically. But like Broly, what made Red Zone Broly so toxic? He nullified dodge and he had an AoE super. And what makes this guy so toxic? Well, I mean, obviously he has this. This is just a toxic fight in general. But have we had any other dodge nullifying fights? Like real, like obviously we had like the Blue Kaioken Goku and the Supreme Magnificent Spectacle. I believe one of the gods and the god event does. And like the new boss rush mode of it or whatever. I believe that there is a dodge nullifying boss in there, or it's only for one phase. But like, I don't think in 2023 we got dodge nullifying anywhere. Like Omega didn't, Sin didn't, Zamasu didn't, Int Goku Black didn't, the Tech Zamasu didn't. Like, I don't think any of these units were actually able to take away that ability from us. But this is one of the abilities that's, like, really weird. Like, how come we've never seen remove damage reduction? Or how come we've never seen remove guard? Because those characters will naturally age out. You know what I mean? Like, theoretically, you could bring, Int Janemba, who just has a 30% chance to dodge. You could bring him. He could never get hit. 30% of the time, he'll never get hit. I mean, that's much less often, or like, of something to happen. But you could bring a character from the start of this game's history, and they could work just because their mechanic means they never get hit. They never get hit, you never take damage. If you never get hit, you never get debuffed. You never get stunned. You never get sealed. You never get locked. You never have any of these things happen if you just go, yoink, and you're never there. And, you know, we should probably understand how toxic dodging is, because we all know the Battlefield Metal Cooler. How many people get so frustrated when that kid, he has a 15% chance to dodge? How many people have, like, genuinely raged or said that this is the end of things? This guy is so hard. He takes multiple teams. It takes forever because it's, you know, all the 30 charges. I can't kill him because he's healing and he's doing way too many supers and he's dodging. He's dodging. That should show you how annoying dodge is. That's what these bosses are having to fucking deal with us bobbing and weaving every 30 fucking seconds. He has a 15% chance to dodge, and we're complaining about that. We have 70, 90, 100. And the bosses are still, I mean, to be fair, they're still kind of kicking our asses in certain situations, but that's more so to say that like, just launching a 5.7 is stupid. I don't want these guys to come to global. But yeah, there's just so many things. So I feel like dodge should not be underestimated, and I feel like a lot of the reason, and I love truth, but I understand why so many people probably hate it. It's because I do feel like again a lot of people in this community either listen exclusively to YouTubers and don't form their own opinion, or they want to be the exact 180 of them. They're like not haters, but like, I don't know, they're just disagreeing for like the sake of disagreeing. I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of like toxic discussions that can happen in here, and you may say, like, oh, well, Truth is the toxic one. Listen, he said hold his fat dick. He said do this. He said do that. You know how many fucking comments this kid gets on a day-to-day basis saying that he's trash, skill check, he fucking sucks at the game, he has no idea what he's doing? He's matching energy, in my opinion. Like, I don't think he's the one who's starting this. You can look through genuinely any of his comment sections. You can look at anything from anywhere. He's going to get, like, way more comments that are like this. And I feel like some people who necessarily aren't the ones engaging in those fights are probably the ones who are getting, like, their feelings hurt. Or the ones who feel like they're being attacked for no reason, which is a little bit of a shame. But there are people who will, like, genuinely look truth dead in the eye and say that Topo is a character who sucks with a dodge build. Now, I don't know if you guys know what Topo does, so I'm not going to assume. I would much rather educate than just degrade. So if we look here, Topo, once he transforms, if the wiki will work, there we go. He has 80% damage reduction, which is really freaking high. You can get this super late into fights too. Like, this guy could theoretically double-digit tank STR Gogeta if you're able to wait onto this with 80% damage reduction. But here's the problem. He loses 8% damage reduction each time he's attacked up to 60%. So he gets hit 7 times. He gets hit 7 times, basically. And he loses 56, which is basically all of it. So he gets hit 8 times. And he only has 20% damage reduction, which, I don't know if I need to tell you this, is not very good. And people will look him dead in the eyes and say, oh, this is a character who needs to be full crit. He has guaranteed crit, though. He does. If anything, this is a character who needs more additional. Because he doesn't launch additionals anywhere, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is... If anything, give this guy full additional. If you don't want to give him dodge, like, okay. Give him additional. Why do so many people give this kid crit? He has guaranteed crit. I don't understand. But people will look at, like, a build like that, or a build of a character who, like, genuinely cannot tank. Or actually, I think he gave a full dodge build to you. So let's talk about why I think giving a full dodge build to you is really smart. This is people. So people will be like, why do you give him a full dodge build? He has 90% damage reduction. Yeah, for turn 1. And then he gets 70% on turn 2, 50%, and then he ends on 30. He ends with only 30%. Now, granted, no, he ends on 0. That's what it is. He loses. Yeah, he ends on 0. He can get up to 30 with the amount of super attacks he performs. That's what it is. Again, I don't think I need to tell you this. 30% damage reduction, not very good. So at the start of the fight, yeah, this guy can go to slot 1. He doesn't need to dodge. But it's when he loses that ability, that's when you give him dodge. He does not need additional because he has so many additionals built in. And for the first couple of turns, he does not need crit because he's basically guaranteed critting. And then on his active skill turn, boom, he gets guaranteed crit on his active skill turn. So why would you give this guy crit or additional? I would say give him additional over crit. I would say that. But why would you give him anything? Why wouldn't you complement his weaknesses? Instead of emphasizing, because if he's already activating his crit in his, like, passive, your hit a potential system crit, it basically doesn't exist. It doesn't exist until turn 5. But at turn 5, would you rather this guy die to a super, but you got a crit that turn? Or potentially dodge and, you know, get to launch just a bunch of normals or supers that weren't crits? That's my opinion, at the very least. But there are some characters who I actually think the exact opposite is true. If we can find this guy... I have pretty much a full offensive build on you, because you are just so defensive naturally, because, you know, you have your guard for the first couple of turns, you have your dodge and everything. I don't really think that this is a character who specifically needs any more defense. I think this is a character who actually suffers from the lack of offensive potency he has. So I believe mine is full additional secondary crit. I don't think I have any dodge on this character in particular. We could say the exact same thing for Tech Exchange Boo. I think Tech Exchange Boo, I have full additional on them. I have 23 additional 17 crit, I think is what I have on them. Or something there around. Just because they are so good defensively, I don't really see a need for anything else otherwise. Or at least that's my opinion. I'm not going to say you're crazy if you give this character a full dodge build, because they're already doing what they're doing best. You're just complementing them. I feel like, again, it's also like a case-by-case situation. I say this all the time. When in doubt, go dodge. When in doubt, go dodge. When in doubt, go dodge. I feel like I need to say that a bunch, because a couple of people... I've been called a true dick rider a couple of times, which I think is kind of funny. But it's when in doubt, go dodge. But evaluate a character's kit, and then go from there. But back to, like, our whole truth discussion. Truth is someone who loves dodge primarily on characters... And, like... to be fair, it's understandable why. If you are a slot 1 character and you get hit by this, right? Slot 1 character, you can survive it, maybe. But if you get hit by it, you're no longer doing enough damage here. Or you're a slot 1 character and you get hit by this and, oh, you're sealed. You can't super this turn. Or this guy has his extra 100% attack because he's under 50% HP. Very few characters are able to actually live that. You dodge it, you survive it. It makes sense why he does it. But he gives a lot of characters offensive builds as well, which I feel like not enough people, like, necessarily care about. Because he is seen as, like, the dodge guy. But to be fair, I can see why he's called the dodge guy. He does talk about it a lot. But to be fair, I do think it is, like, the most powerful mechanic in the game. It's better than damage reduction just because it out-ages. There are dodge characters from 5 years ago that can still be run, when a damage reduction character from 2 years ago cannot. Damage reduction characters from last year can't. Int EZA Future Gohan, that's a character who can't be run today. Sword of Hope is a character who I don't think can be run today. They're damage reduction characters, but just because the level of damage is so much higher, like, the highest thing they had to deal with last year was actually this. I'm pretty sure Physical Zamasu and the second phase of the Red Zone, I think this is what his super attack effect was. They have to deal with this right out the gate. They just can't do that. They were designed for something completely different. Now, you could bring Int Mai, bro. You run her with a full Future Saga team. She hits Kid Buu with the super attack. Boom. She has a 70% chance to dodge. She's probably the best agent character outside of... No, Zamasu. Tech Zamasu's best agent character from Worldwide, but ain't my bro. A lot of people sleep on her. She's a dodging support unit. Really, 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 really good. But yeah. So that's kind of what the discussion here that we're feeling about dodge. So how does everyone feel about dodge? Does everything I say kind of make sense? Where like it is like the payoff for it is so high, but when you don't get that payoff, it sucks. It sucks because you can also put it onto so many characters, so you can make a bad character look way better because they're always dodging, or dodge could literally do nothing for you just because luck is never on your side. It is, again, this is a game of RNG, ones and zeros, rolling the dice, flipping coins, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You could have a unit who has one dodge in the hidden potential system, and they can dodge for you. We all know it all the time. Full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. How many times is... Hold on. How many times has this asshole... Whoop. How many times has this asshole... hold on. I don't make fun of my typing. Where is it? Come on. Is it not going to search? Hello? Is his name not the Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku? I swear that's his name. I guess we could just pull up Goku. Yeah, how many times has this asshole who needs to get hit 5 times gotten a 5% chance to dodge and you die because of it? How many times? Raise your hand. Everyone, raise your hands if that has ever happened to you before. Because dodge can fuck you. Because there are characters who obviously also... No, I was about to wrap up the video. We're going to talk about that now. There are characters, a lot of characters, who get built up by receiving hits. This is a guy who gets hit. Every time he gets hit, he gets extra stats. Let's see. I guess let's get rid of the Goku-specific thing. This character needs to get hit to get built up. This is a character who needs to get hit to get built up. Get hit to get built up. Get hit to get built up. So maybe people also think like, well, why would I give a character dodge when so many characters need to get hit to get built up? Okay, well, let's talk about it. Dodoria. Dodoria is a character who needs to get hit to get built up, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, you know what? We'll go back a little bit. We'll talk about physical Goku Black. Actually, no. You know who we'll talk about? We'll talk about Kid Buu. We'll talk about Kid Buu. Where's Kid Buu? Kid Buu is a much better example because he only has to get hit a couple of times. So this is a character who, every time he gets hit 2 times, he gets 20% damage reduction. Where is it in his passive? I want to show it right here. So this is a character who gets 20% crit, 20% damage reduction each time he gets hit twice. So he gets hit 4 times, he's essentially fully built up. So why would you give a character like this dodge? Well, because with 60% damage reduction and after they super, they can eat most normals. I will say that. They can eat most normals. They can't eat super attacks when they're fully built up. And before they get fully built up, they can't eat normals a lot of the time. Or they can't eat supers a lot of the time. So giving a character like this dodge, where they're already critting, basically critting, they don't really get any sort of benefit from their super attack because they don't like raise stats or anything. They just lower defense, which can be relevant, but most of the time you want to lower attack instead. So I feel like giving them dodge is just a no-brainer. Because this is, again, most of the time, this is a character, once they're fully built up, can tank almost any normal in the game. Type advantage. Type disadvantage, not really. But type advantage, they can take it very well, especially with, like, their links, like Big Bad Bosses. They link very well with, like, Majin Buu characters and just a lot of generic villains. There's not a super attack, like a relevant super attack in the game, I think that this guy would be able to live. So, you give them dodge, then all of a sudden, this kid's one and only, like, true weakness is accounted for. You give them 30% chance to dodge, yeah, there's a 30% chance you'll miss out on this. But what's going to happen more often? Okay, let's be real. What is going to happen more often? These guys are going to die to a normal? Or these guys are going to not, or excuse me, they're going to die to a super because they dodged a normal, or they're going to live against a super because they dodged it. In both of those situations, what I'm saying is that there is a normal attack and a dodge. But yeah, I guess you could dodge like a build-up hit. Like, oh no, I don't know if I need to tell you this, but like they're probably going to die anyway if they're not fully built up against a super. And they're just going to take, like, a lot of damage from normals, but I don't think like, there is a normal in the game that would kill them outright. So it doesn't really matter if you dodge that. It doesn't matter if you dodge the normal. Because, yeah, you're missing out on the build-up, but they're going to survive it anyway. And you're already going to take decent damage anyway. But nothing you can do can make this character survive a super. Nothing. Except dodge. So, there we go. But, like, that is a very prominent character who needs to get hit. But I feel like you can make a very good argument for why giving them dodge nonetheless would still be very beneficial. This is a character who, like, he needs to get hit 5 times. I wouldn't recommend giving him dodge, but he's very offensive anyway, so you kind of feed into the offensive side of things. Maybe once he starts to get power crept, you can, you know, go into the dodge, and that's another thing about dodge, bro. It makes characters survive too long. It makes characters survive too long. You can have a character like, I don't know, we're just gonna randomly click back here. Like Rose. You could still run Rose in today's meta with a full dodge build, assuming that he always dodges. Because he's doing decent damage. And he links decently well with villains. Like, that's something you can do. Dodge is probably too powerful. But that's the end of the discussion. That's the end of the discussion. I feel like I covered all my branches. What? I feel like I covered, like, a wide variety of arguments. Covered a lot of things from different perspectives, why people might feel a way that they do. So let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. But that'll be all for this time, guys. I've been the Sweeper27. I'm a variety Twitch streamer and an up-and-coming PNG YouTuber trying to make it big in the world. I have a Twitter, a Twitch, a TikTok, and a YouTube, the links of which can all be found in the description of this video. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, share me around, and leave me a comment, positive, negative, or indifferent. I love just any sort of interaction I can get from you guys. But that'll be all for now. So, as always, I've been the Sweeper27, and I am signing off.